Hey guys, today let's do something a bit different. We're going to play around with an R character, and that is going to be Cachi because he got buffed in the previous balance patch of Etheria Restart, allowing to have a 50% chance to stun in the skill 3. In this game, if you have high accuracy, you can double the stun chance to 100%. So this skill, if you put it on an SSR character, it's gonna be a very good skill. However, because this guy is an R character, his base stat is gonna be pretty bad, and his base speed is going to be pretty bad as well. So even with you maxed out skill 1, the speed you get is also less than an SSR character. Overall, he's gonna be a rather slow hero. However, you can still use him in PvE because you don't need to have like the best speed in the content so that you can utilize him properly. Unfortunately, with his skill 2, if he has higher base speed, he's gonna boost like Messiah and one-shot the entire enemy team like Tsukiyomi. Unfortunately, Tsukiyomi is just way faster than this guy, right? With the higher base speed and the better speed when you upgrade. So if you have Tsukiyomi, you might not need to build this guy at all. However, this guy can be very fun in a certain dungeon, and that is going to be Shadow Flame Hoyen. So in this dungeon, you need to stun in the very first turn. If not, the ad is going to provide damage reduction for the boss and attack your entire team as well. So this guy bring in not only the AoE stun and pushback, which is really good against the boss, he also reduced cooldown and boost the turn meter of Ditting. So for Tsukiyomi, we're just gonna go with a slower build because I need my claws to go first in AoE defense break. However, I really need Cachi to go first to provide AoE stun and pushback, and then he can boost Ditting after that. Your Ditting need to be very hard hitting so that he can take down this final boss. The harder the Ditting hit, the better it is. However, in this run, it is not going to be like a 100% win rate because there's always a small chance of 10% that you miss your stun, and that is very terrifying. So we land both stun very nicely. However, for claws, there's also another 10% chance that you're going to miss your defense break. And for this kind of speed team, it is a little bit tricky to land both the AoE stun and the defense break on the boss. But overall, you will still get a decent win rate if you have good speed. And now you're going to boost your Ditting with your Tsukiyomi. If you run like a Freya, I think that's going to work out as well. So Ditting is going to go in, do the big damage with the White Fang. And now we have the claws to push back the turn meter. We have this unit on Codex of Magic to push them back even further. So the boss may not take a turn. Potentially, but I think the boss is going to take one turn. Not a problem though. This thing's going to go again. We do big damage, and then White Fang's going to hit. I think if we land the... What is that debuff? The vulnerable debuff a bit earlier, we can probably kill this thing even faster. So with the Codex of Magic pushing the turn meter of the enemy team twice, the ads will not even take a turn. So this is going to be a very fast team for this dungeon that is going to be different than the Shadow Sania team. If you don't have the Shadow Sania, you might want to build toward this kind of speed team because realistically, I think the less time you spend in the game, the better. You know, you don't want to be spending like 30 minutes for 10 run. You want to finish your daily stamina as quickly as possible. So building a speed team is pretty fun and it has a practical purpose. And you can probably use the same team. Ooh, look at that. Nothing usable. You can probably use the same team for Nikon Nana as well if you want to bring down Nikon Nana fast, because the overall philosophy in this dungeon is that you need to stun the ads or else it's going to be a bit tricky for you. So let's say we have claws here as well. I'm not sure if my claws has enough accuracy for this boss, but maybe we're going to do the same thing here. So we're going to go in. We're going to push back and stun the ads so that the left ads cannot stun your damage dealer and the right ads cannot buff the boss speed to reduce your damage output. And then because this boss is actually weaker than Shadow Flame Hoyen, your Ditting is going to hit even harder and take him down even easier. As you can see right there, just one turn from Ditting and the boss is already dead. I think in this dungeon, you might not need your Cachi to be on Codex of Magic because they are way slower. And this thing can be boosted way faster with this unit boosting, reducing Ditting cooldown. Very cool. So 30-second run for this one as well. But then Nikon Nana Inferno is not super hard in people's eyes nowadays. A speed team is still much appreciated. And that is the two team I've been using my Cachi in. Unfortunately, you can't really debuff this boss, so it's a bit harder to use him here. And for this boss, it is way too tanky for that thing to like double tap him. So I think it is a bit, if this boss is a bit less tanky, then maybe you can do the same here as well. However, this boss is just way too tanky, so we still play with a slower team for this guy, unfortunately. I think there's a manual run for this dungeon. I think it's gonna be the Yelly team, as you can see right here. Look at this crazy Yelly, right? So the team that you are seeing is probably gonna be a manual run where you have this guy boosting the Yelly, we have this boost the Yelly, and then we have this to boost the Yelly. So they all have a skill tool that can boost Yelly to reduce her cooldown and allow her to do big damage. But I don't think that's gonna be very auto-friendly, because both this and this, they have a skill tree they can use that will probably not be very useful for Yelly to do big damage. However, I think this kind of character is also going to be really good in content that require to build multiple different kind of team. So I've been testing around in the Cage Rumble, and I think this unit has a lot of potential for the Shadow Flame Hoyen boss in Cage Rumble as well. So I'm going to go into my run here so we can show you the Shadow Flame Hoyen team. So my Nikon Nana team is pretty much AoE or single target defense break. We control the boss, and then my Rosa start going crazy. I actually really like my Nahor in here because he can shut down the ads so that the ads will not stun me, and then Rosa just start doing absolutely insane damage. But if we switch to the Shadow Flame Hoyen, you can see right here, it is pretty much the same team concept. So we have big damage coming from Ditting, and then we have this guy to stun the ads and push their turn meter back. So most of the time, the ads are not even taking any turn whatsoever. And then I have my Doki Doki here to reduce the cooldown of everybody, so I can keep doing that. And then we have Freya here to provide my team with attack buff instead of Tsukiyomi, because I have to build Tsukiyomi for Nikon Nana. Unfortunately, I have to use Freya in this content. However, with Freya here, everybody can have lifesteal, which is really good. We don't actually have to bring a healer into this boss because everybody is like gaining health as they attack the boss, which is really amazing. Freya is so awesome, guys. And pretty much we have the Cachi just boosting Ditting all the time, reduce his cooldown, and then reducing the turn meter of Shadow Flame Hoyen. And he is just an amazing character for this particular dungeon because he also buff attack power. My Freya is not skill up at all, so the cooldown is a bit longer, and with him just boosting my Ditting attack, he has attack buff like all the time, which is amazing for this boss. But you can probably do the same if you switch like maybe Tsukiyomi here, and then you put your Cachi over here so that I can boost my Rosa Messiah. Works the same way as well. So I think he's going to be like a low investment kind of character. You don't have to 6-star him. You don't have to waste any Latisse on him. And he's going to be a very nice support to put into content that requires to build multiple different character. And I think that can apply to, let's say, Ethernet Rally as well, because you never know what kind of element is going to show up, right? So let's say in this element where they require you to run red and blue or red and light, for example. Let's say you want to do more damage, then you need a red support character. I think Cachi is going to be a great support in this section of the game as well. And I think the stronger you are, the more likely you're gonna look into the character that can help you do the game way faster. And that is not all. He also has application in the arena. And I think you can probably use this guy for PvP as well, but I think this might be a little bit of a stretch. However, it is usable and a little bit practical. I'm not too sure. So we're gonna go in with, let's say, my very fast claws to try and get some turn meter. However, because my Messiah is like crazy slow, this may make my oboe take a turn. However, this will not make my Messiah take a turn. I want to buy some time and control the enemy team, but this character can instantly allow my Messiah to move, and that is going to allow me to one-shot the entire enemy team. You can probably do the same with Bayontin or Tsukiyomi, but I don't have Bayontin. I don't have Lily and Mio to boost my Messiah as well. So I gotta find a way to make my Messiah move and have a very satisfying cleave moment with an attack buff Messiah. So I think it is usable, but it's not exactly super practical due to how slow Cachi is in actual combat. He's not gonna move very easily as a turn 1 unit. You gotta allow other unit to make him move, and then he's gonna allow your team to take that very important turn right there. If I own like a Mio or Lily, I would never have to do this kind of thing, but because I don't, I think this is like kind of cool. I can probably use Tsukiyomi to do the same thing and way better at that as well, but it's just that it feels kind of cool to use an R character. And I think when you go to United Front, you can probably do the same trick with Messiah and Cachi as well. So you can save your Tsukiyomi for a more important battle. Because let's say you find a random defense that is not going to be like a super fast defense. They're relying on being tanky. Then maybe Messiah with attack buff can potentially one-shot them. However, in this game, it's a bit hard to do so compared to other game because of a thing called Bloodbath. So if the team is built with Bloodbath, I feel like Messiah, even with attack buff and like a super cracked out build, is probably not going to do enough damage to most actual Bloodbath character. Maybe if you find like a Hoyen Rahu kind of defense, then you ignore defense and do big damage. Potentially that's gonna work. But if you're fighting like a Tiamat, Linglo, then that might be a bit of a problem. I think even with like a super cracked out Messiah, it is not gonna work easily with Cachi buffing Messiah to one shot. So unfortunately, the practicality is not gonna be there for PvP. But maybe in the future, there will be a character that allow Cachi to maybe one shot like an ultra ignore defense. Because right now, Messiah is an AoE ignore defense damage dealer. So the multiplier is not allowed to be big. If this guy has insane multiplier, he will just destroy this entire game on his own. So the fact that he ignore defense and he ignore passive, his multiplier is not going to be like crazy. But maybe in the future, they will make a single target DPS like Lilium, for example. But instead of having bonus damage, she can single target ignore defense. And for those character, you are allowed to have good multiplier because you are only killing one target. And that is gonna make Cachi so much better because if you boost that character and one shot an enemy in United Front combat, then it's gonna be so much easier because in this kind of content, the moment you make it a 2v3, the team of 3 is so much better than a team of 2 because building a team of 3 is not simple, right? You have to slot in like protection, damage, buffer. If you can just snipe one of the important unit, let's say over there, right, this Messiah defense team, if you kill Messiah, it's pretty much over. So having a Cachi into like a single target hard hitter, you're gonna just like destroy one defense very, very easily. So I think that's gonna be a lot of fun in the future. Not now though. So that's it for me today, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'm not sure if it was a very fun or practical video, but I really enjoy building these kind of random shit. I think that is the beauty of these kind of game, is that you can explore whatever the fuck you want. Like you can scroll down and then you just build whatever you feel like for the day, try it out, feel good about it, and then do that for every other character. I think that's the beauty of Hero Collector. The fun part, the little positive thing about Gacha game is that there's always going to be the lower rarity character that can be a hidden gem in this kind of game. So thank you so much for watching. I really want to build this character next though. She's like super meta in PvP, and maybe she can be very good for other PvE content as well. But that's it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.